The moniker for success is like loving the life you live.
Happiness.
Yeah. And loving the way you got there. And then like everything in the middle.
The gift of educating others is also educating myself. So I'll get questions sometimes that I don't know the answer to, that I have to go do my own homework on.
And I love that your approach is actually, I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to invite you to invest with me. It's a very needed approach because I think so often with women, we gatekeep. We say, okay, here's this one thing I do, and I want to be known for it to be awesome to my friends or whatever. And so I'm not going to tell you like the secret sauce. I'll tell you just that one piece that looks really good.
Oh no, girl, I give it all.
Truly.
I really do. That's I call it the slice of pie syndrome. Like if you have a piece of pie, then I can't have any of that pie, right? I think that's bullshit. Then make more pie. And I also believe you get back what you put out in the world and in life.
There's just so much more to wealth and to growth than keeping it for ourselves.
You were made to do more in life than just pay bills and get by. The key to even more success? Get your assets together. With generational growth, we're not just talking about wealth. This is about building your version of an incredible life in every area that truly matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. What if I told you there's a life-changing opportunity to help yourself, even now and especially now? I'm KK Hart, an expert on being both well and wealthy. I've spent decades building what's basically my own investment fund, emphasis on fun, acquiring and growing unique brands with capital, partnerships, and strategic support. I'm here to empower you to go further faster with an anti-hustle, no burnout path to getting richer and more financially fit for investing, acquisition, and growing everything you own. Let's grow.
The concept of growth has never been elusive to me. It's my whole career. When I started thinking about money and talking about money more, especially being an adoptive mom in this weird way that I did, I kept going back to this idea of like, what is real success? What is real growth? And I think everybody thinks it's about money, right? It's always about this idea of like F you money, or, you know, having enough to buy insert thing. And actually what I see as the moniker for success is like loving the life you live.
Happiness.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And loving the way you got there.
Yeah.
And then like everything in the middle. I call it the
middle.
messy middle,
Yes.
correct. It's the minutia that I actually live for. It's like I don't buy the fancy thing. I actually look at the things that are in my day-to-day, and that's the thing I upgrade.
So hard for people to do that though, because we have, especially with the invent of social media, everyone has these like cookie cutter beautiful feeds of what life they think life is, and that's not actually what joy and happiness and real growth really looks like. And I will tell you that my wealthiest friends, I think, are actually the least happy.
Same. Damn, you said the thing right up front.
I know.
It's hard because the concept I always hear is, well, it's nice to have money. And once you have money, then you can say that. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm the same person I was. I was dropping F-bombs before I had money. I'm dropping it now. I'm the same person,
This
right?
is why we love each other and why we fell in love.
That's right.
Instantaneously. Yes.
It's a magnifier. It's a magnifier of who I am. And if my vision of wealth is not about what things I can obtain, but about what can I do with this tool, it's a very different conversation.
Totally.
How you grow.
I didn't think about the magnifier conversation is so very true, because it does put up a mirror in front of you, because with that level of wealth, you can do anything you want to. And what you choose then to do is a reflection of who you fundamentally are as a human.
Really are.
Ooh, I just got chills everywhere.
It's so cool. You got
God.
me in
Yes.
so many ways, right?
Yes, I love you
That's
so
why we're here. It's like there's this concept of growth that I think the world is kind of pitching right now. And I could go into all the reasons why I think they're doing that. Slavery is the way I think about it. It's a harsh way of thinking about it, but we're in this techno-slavery world right now where it's like, what do you have? How can you show it? What can you do for it?
Well,
and
data
actually,
literally equals money. Like, how could it not be that era?
And it's you can monetize it. You can, for the first time in your life, you can monetize everything you're wearing, everything you own, everything you have access to. And yet I think that slower life, that very simple life that I've been really blessed to have, it's actually shown me the real kind of benefit of money, which is that in the day-to-day, you really love life. You love the tiny, mediocre aspects of the olive oil that I choose that's $5 an ounce, and the
slow
grade of
coffee
meat.
in the morning.
Yes.
That's like one of my favorite things that I don't get enough. And that's why we're doing the Mexico property that I shared with you.
I remembered that, yes.
Because I'm like, and my husband was actually the one that called it out, because I had this vision of, buying the next big house and being flashy. And I came back from a trip. My husband said, you don't actually need more of anything other than time and space and places where people can't pull on you, because everyone needs something from you. Everybody wants something from you. But what do you really want? And he's like, I see you. And what you really want is space. and freedom and time. And I was like, shit.
Damn, girl. If you didn't marry him then, you'd marry him now. That's a good engineer husband for you.
I know.
They ground.
Yeah.
They stabilize. I mean, in more ways than one.
For sure. Yes.
Truly.
He says, you go be the sparkle, babe. I got the foundation.
Yes. Oh, that's my dude in the flesh. So I'm curious. This is actually, I only have a few questions for you because I know we'll go deep. What was it like for you to go for growth maybe before you became the mogul that you are now? And then my second question would be, what was it to go for growth now as you are who you are? And I'd love to hear more about fabric as part of that.
Before. Well, I think as you are like evolving into a grown-up adult human, for me, that was about education. But I don't know if that's actually what I wanted. It was more that was what was kind of like instilled in me. Like my dad was very working class and as you know, I ended up having to take over his company when he got sick and selling that eventually. But he always said, nobody can take away your education. If nothing else, that's the thing that you can fall back on. Like even now, if everything went to shit, which it could, you never know, I could go back and practice law or, use the MBA in some capacity. Yeah. Probably start something new, of course, because it's crazy. But I think at that point, growth to me meant an evolution in education and knowing that I had enough alphabet soup, I guess, behind me to really be able to stand up in any room. I don't know if that's what I would have said at the time, but I think looking back retroactively, that was probably what growth meant to me. Because at that point, I was like very much on a linear path towards that corner partner track at a law firm until the universe, was like, nope.
Gonna take you, move you here.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because actually, I always thought that was kind of it sounds horrible, but a uniquely like immigrant kid mindset. That's what I was taught as well. It's like no one can take anything from you if you got that education.
Yeah.
That is interesting to hear that was the perspective of which that you started out with.
Yeah. Well, my mom was a kindergarten teacher at LAUSD, so public school, charter school eventually, but for almost 50 years. So that was always part of the conversation around education that she instilled in us. And then my dad had dyslexia. I have a very light dyslexia as well. And so I think the challenges in that have made us certainly who we are. I think it's why I'm better with people and numbers for sure, as he always was as well. But I think that's why it was so important for him that I get the education he wasn't capable of getting.
Wow.
Like, didn't graduate college, none of that.
He didn't?
No.
Wow. So they really, this is the beauty of legacy, right? Is that they wanted that to go to their next generation.
For sure.
Wow. That really gives you perspective on how you got here with the alphabet soup and all of the different ventures. So if that's how you started, how did you make the leap from, I'm going to educate myself, I'm going to look at my personal development as an example, to really this next stage of growth?
It was actually because of the experience of having to run my family business. And I've been very open with you and with others about jumping into that position and realizing that my father was totally over leveraged and he was always a great schmoozer, which is where I got that skill set from, but he was not a good operator. Wow. And so I needed to come in and clean all that up. But what that did was it really fucked me up around the conversation around money.
Because you were 26.
I was 26 to 29, yeah. And I'd never really thought about it because I knew that they had some struggles and they ended up losing a home and having to declare bankruptcy and all of this. Like, I went from private school to, law school and business school and a really great undergrad in between that and never really had to worry about it. Like, it was never a conversation, which also should have been a red flag. But when you're a kid, you don't really know that you should be having conversations around money. It's one of the things I respect the most about you is the conversations that you're willing to have within your family, making sure that she's educated, as powerful and successful as you are. You're like, I'm not just handing this to you. We need to be in dialogue around what money really means and the power of money. And I really respect that from what you've built. When I started making real money at my agency, so I launched Elevate after selling my family company, and I made like my first real money at the agency. And I was like, fucked up about it. Like, I was like, what do I do with this? Like, this is all going to go away. And I even can feel that sweat, like that feeling, that flop sweat feeling of like, oh my God, like this could all just go away tomorrow, because it was, I had everything with my family, then they lost everything. And that dichotomy it's hard to reconcile.
Yeah.
So what I did was go back to education. And actually, I only realized that in this conversation that was my like growth then, growth now. Like that was the hopscotch.
I got my chills.
I know, right? So I joined a women's investment group, and the woman who ran that group is actually on my board of Fabric now. and is an investor as well. So it's like a full circle moment. But I joined this group. I think I was the youngest person in that group by like 15 years probably. And I would sit there and I would just like nod and pretend like I knew what the fuck they were talking about. And I would take notes, and then I would go home and I would Google and I would educate myself. Because I guess, again, looking back, I knew that I could learn. I was always a really, really good student. And about a year into that relationship, they brought a late stage venture fund to the table. I came home to my husband and I said, I think we need to do this deal. I know I'm new at this and I'm just starting to get my feet wet. And he said, babe, I trust you. Like, if that's what we need to do, then that's what we're going to do. And we scraped together everything we had liquid at that time. And we made that investment, and we will exit that position because it was also a venture deal 11, 12 years later. They're saying 8.5x. I'm going to call it 6.5x just to be safe.
Take it.
But I'll take it, right?
Come on.
Yeah.
So that gave you the venture bug.
Well, it gave me the investor bug,
Okay.
I think. I still didn't, I mean, that was still very early in my agency career. Right. And that was the first private investment other than, the house and other asset classes.
Yeah. Simple assets.
But because of my legal background, a lot of private equity and venture firms were coming to us to market them.
Makes sense.
So 3 years ago, one of those GPs was the one that called me to the table to do this work. And we had done a couple other deals. So I think we started investing more seriously probably 6 years ago, I would say.
Makes sense.
You have ebb and flow to your businesses, and you buy houses and you put your assets in different places. And then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you're like, wow, I've got all this cash. I got to do something with this.
Yep.
And do you know the Draper family name?
Well, I know Jessie.
Jessie,
She's,
yeah.
a dynamo.
So Jessie and I have known each other for 20 years. We came in to vet some of her consumer deals on her fund one, became LPs in her fund two. And when I was conceptualizing fabric, and I called her and I said, I think I'm going to launch a venture fund. I know that's kind of wild. What do you think? And she goes, fuck yeah, I'm in. Here's a check. Go raise a fund. And I'm sitting on your board. And I was like, oh, shit. I think I just launched a fund. Cool. So that's how the whole thing started, after being called to the table because we were doing so much marketing work in those fields. I would love to go deeper on that. I think women, you've been in business longer than I have. This is my 23rd year. And 23 years ago, even, it was unheard of for a woman to have multiple interests in her career. I'm not older than you in business. So Elevate is 17. Okay. And then 3 years before that was when I was running my dad. So you're actually... So we're pretty close. Yeah. I started young. That's a whole story. I got the age on you. You got the business age on me. How about that? I have a lot of business grays, and you'll see today. But I started young, and I just remember always wondering, when do you make certain decisions, and what makes sense at what time doesn't always make sense in another time. And there's something you just said I'd love to go deeper in, which is this concept of, when do you go broader? When do you go deeper? When do you choose what your heart says versus what the money says? I'm so curious for you because you have this multi-hyphenate background, which again, years ago was not considered a benefit for women. I've always seen it as my ace in the hole. Yeah. I am able to be flexible. I can pivot. I can see things because I have many interests. There's a Frank Sinatra quote I used to love back when I was dating in my old days. I used to use that quote to filter out all the losers. And it's something around the lines of when you sit down with someone, it shouldn't be a staring contest. And so I love having many interests. Definitely. And so being a multi-hyphenate woman, I actually am not shocked at the success you've had because you've been able to do the law thing, the marketing thing, and now the VC thing. How do you see those things kind of, leading from one to the other with regards to your different interests and skills? Is it still the education throughput, or is it also that you have many interests? I think it's a little of both. Okay. I also think I probably am just, I get bored really easily also. Yeah. We're both really good chess players in life, I think. Yes. And when you can see the future and you can see how to put pieces together differently than other folks, I think that's a real asset. And I think that's something you and I certainly have in common. Absolutely. So I think it happened to me, and now I'm in a place, or I've been in a place for a while, where I can kind of see the future for myself. Yeah. I do think that the education piece is a through line, but I think it's more outward facing now. Mm-hmm. So now what I do is I educate other people about the asset class. Yes. And I didn't know, and I have told you this already as well, that would be the work in this work, right? Yeah, there. And because of that, 70% of our investors are diverse, and 40% are first-time check writers into this asset class. It's huge. It's huge. It's unheard of. Yes. It's fucking hard.
Yeah, I
it
bet.
takes a lot more time to close a check when you're educating and empowering people.
Definitely.
But I think that that's me using my gifts around education.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Also, women are really difficult in this space. I
yes.
find, and I'm very honest about this, years ago, somebody told me I was very masculine brained and I didn't know what to make of that. But now I'm like, totes, that's who I am. I own it. And maybe that's why I can't relate. But when I speak to women about, I call it getting your assets together.
Yeah.
I coined that phrase in the pandemic, just talking at a screen, trying to give as much education as possible at the time. And I was like, what you ladies really need to do is get your assets together. And I was like, I'm keeping that. So that's the actual moniker for generational growth now for the docuseries. But what I find so interesting is like, women need to see like every aspect of this room most times before they're willing to walk in. Men, Chad from Stanford, as you say.
That door looks good. Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah.
I'll tell everybody it's, the finest crafted Italian wood, and I'll make the most out of it if I was a dude. And I think raising from women is especially challenging because of that. Working with women in the financial capacity in any way is it's difficult for me, and all I do is share. Like, it drives me insane, and also I love it. So
yeah, same, totally.
Yeah, see?
Totally.
I imagine for you, it's a big part of your skill set that's coming out, like you said, and you're better than a Birkenstock. I've not yet heard it, but I've heard lots about it. I've gotten all the tea from other ladies. And they say it really paints a picture that I think you can't unlook at as a woman. Like, we're fantastic consumers. 80% of the consumption of, especially here in the US, and we are so thriving in that. We live in that era of like, oh, I got my Kelly and I did this thing and I did this to my face. But then you start talking about your money moves and we shrink.
Oh, yes. So gauche to talk about money.
All of a sudden it becomes odd.
Yeah, but it makes sense when you really think about what our money trajectory has looked like and when we got the rights to have credit and, own a mortgage and things like that.
Yeah.
It's really very, very recent in the history of America.
Fair.
And so I think that that's why whenever I get frustrated, I'm like, take a breath or have a martini. Or both. And yes, because I think it's just the natural evolution of where we've been as a gender, right?
Oh.
And so that's why I have to kind of like take a breath every now and then and just be like, all right, we don't know any better. We haven't been told any better. And in fact, we've been very intentionally left off of this table from a control perspective. And so to thank you, your kind words about the better than a Birkin from luxury to legacy conversation, it's really about organic narrative, the storytelling around my money journey, because I think people do look at me a lot of times. They're like, oh, she has it all,
Sure.
And I struggle a lot with all the things that everyone else does, like all the things. And so I think when you peel back the curtain and the layers and you're like, look, I did not start here. I had it. My family lost it. I had to build it again. And I actually think that
harder.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know if I'd be the same person if that didn't happen. I think to your point, money puts up a mirror, but would I be fighting this hard to make sure other women understood it? I don't know. I like to think that I would, but who knows? You can't look back and think what could be. So it's really about telling a very honest story around money and giving women a safe space. It's really not that complicated. We complicate it far more than it needs to be, to your point. And this is something I'm sure folks have heard about. When a woman goes after a job, she has to have like 90% of the resume, whereas a man is like 15, 20, 50, whatever. It's a lot less. But again, I think that's part of the education, the empowerment piece, and my kind of end conversation around the better than a Birkin talk is like, we are going to be in charge of this money, like trillions of dollars in transfer that's about to happen, the great wealth transfer, which I'm sure you talk about. We got to get our shit together. We got to get our assets together. Right? And that's why they call it an access class and not an asset class.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that before.
That's my line.
Laurel, that is so interesting. And also just where you're such a champion. Something else you shared with me is a lot of women of color that you've championed to get to this, realm of access class.
Yes.
Love it. And also even just, is it the young lady who runs Fabric or runs Elevate? That's also a woman of color.
Oh, yes. My partner, Sharia.
Because you don't often hear, cross multi-generational approach to wealth. We often find that in-group preference, and I think nobody likes to talk about this. I'm multiracial. I can offend everybody, honey. There's an in-group preference for a lot of people. And I've watched you be a person who's like, no. My in-group preference is no pale, no stale, and no male.
Pale, male, or stale. And we've maybe added Yale.
I love Yale. My sister went to Harvard. I get it.
Look, and I did all the schooling, but
good.
it's really just about, I think, doing what's right. And that's why when we were launching Fabric, I did, to your point, an ESOP, an employee stock option plan. And my top 2 folks at the agency, which happened to be a queer man and a Black woman, now have part ownership over the agency, which is also in furtherance of our social and financial equity mission. To me, this all just made sense.
Yeah.
But people do call it out often, and I don't know. I feel very lucky that this is who my parents raised me to be.
Right.
And what I think is right to do in the world. They're the ones that are growing the business. Why don't they get a piece of it? Like,
God,
I don't
this
need
is so
anything
good.
else, you know?
This is why you're you, because you're like, I think about the inequities and I make a concerted effort to educate and to elevate. Ooh, truly, honey.
Love the
Me,
name
I'm like, just get your assets together, bitches. Come on, man. Like, pony up. You got this. And I love that your approach is actually, it's soft, but it's also very stern. It's like, hey, I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to invite you to invest with me. I heard you say that recently and I loved it. But it's a very needed approach, because I think so often with women we gatekeep. We say, okay, here's this one thing I do, and I want to be known for it to be awesome to my friends or whatever. And so I'm not going to tell you like the secret sauce. I'll tell you just that one piece that looks really good.
Oh no, girl, I give it all.
Truly.
I really do. That's I call it the slice of pie syndrome. Like, if you have a piece of pie, then I can't have any of that pie, right? Like, that's there's only so many pieces of the
That's
pie.
right, yes.
Right? I think that's bullshit. Then
That's
make more
total
pie.
bullshit.
Why can't we make more pie?
That's right.
We'll have ovens.
Yeah,
Not
we'll
that we
have
need to be
more
in the kitchen,
ingredients.
but-
We'll have more money to bake the pie, more ovens to put it in. Like, there's just so much more to wealth and to growth than keeping it for ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. And I also believe in you get back what you put out in the world and in life. And I've been very lucky in my life to meet incredible women and people in general. And I think that's because of who I want to be as a human also,
You know, that's interesting, because when I think about how you're going for growth, I'm not really hearing like what Laurel gets out of it. I'm hearing that Laurel's doing this for this person and that for that person. Then there's the fund, and then like maybe the house in Mexico. But like, where are you pouring into yourself still? Because you're doing a lot. You're championing a lot of people, a lot of causes, a lot of areas of opportunity, businesses. Where do you take that time to also like think about your growth at this stage?
That's a really, really good question. Well, I'm still learning. I think through this process, like, the gift of educating others is also educating myself. So I'll get questions sometimes that I don't know the answer to, that I have to go do my own homework on, or talk about another woman who supported women. Like, amazing. There have been a couple of women in venture who have really been many, many steps ahead of me, who've been willing to have those conversations. So I think in doing the work on this side, I'm also pushing myself and educating myself continually to be better at the things that I'm learning and doing now. Like, Fund 2 will look significantly different than Fund 1, because I learned all these new lessons, you know? But I think in terms of what I do for myself, I think education is for me. I do.
I hear it in everything you say. I never even realized we had that.
I didn't
in
either. This has
common.
been like a really eye-opening conversation for me. Because I've always been, it's the thing I'm good at, and I like to be good at things like you do, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm great at education, both receiving and giving.
Yes.
I think it's part of my Gemini nature, giving
Yeah.
and receiving.
Oh, that's true.
Right? And then, having a more balanced life. Like, I'm very clear about boundaries in terms of my time.
Yeah.
I work out 5 days a week, maybe 6 sometimes. I hydrate. I eat really well. I cook all the time. We have a masseur that comes to the house every Sunday. So I'm very specific about physically taking care of myself and my husband.
That's that balance that I think most people, they think you get the money first and then you start doing those things. But I've found that every step of the way, I actually take more of those things into my own wheelhouse. Instead of having someone else tell me what to do for certain things, I do the learning. I still do probably 6 to 10 hours a week of professional development, whether it's on the fitness and wellness side, whether it's on the investing side, whether it's marketing, 'cause that shit's changing,
Oh my gosh, yes.
so much.
Yeah.
But I love it. Like, I live, my husband would tell you, like, she doesn't work many hours, but man, she's constantly researching. She's constantly like keeping her credentials up. And it's, at this point, it's all for enjoyment. I've been financially retired since my early 20s, which was very lucky. But I just never stopped wanting to learn, and that just keeps bringing more and more opportunities to the table. It's
What a
very
gift.
Weird gift to have.
It's such a gift, though. And we have that conversation, too, because we were planning for early retirement also. And but will we ever really, truly retire? I think I'll be so fucking bored.
Yeah, I'm not doing it.
No, then it's just going to we'll be able to give more gifts to other people.
That's
right.
right.
Continue to grow community, the things that are really meaningful to us.
Yeah, I think that looks different for a lot of people. I have friends that are really big advocates of the FIRE movement, and I think it's really great. For them, it makes sense. For me, I would be quite bored, and I wouldn't feel like I'm living my fullest potential, because my fullest potential was never about money. You keep hearing that throughput over and over again. It was like exactly not that. Yeah. It was like, am I giving? Am I, I think, expanding? And am I educating? And then lastly, am I changing? And actually, I
Evolution.
think for many people, the idea of being the same person forever is like fantastic. And for me, like, I mean, becoming a mom after decades of saying I would never do it was the extra push that I needed to really go, I think I'm actually a very flexible person, and I can evolve every 5 to 10 years, whether that's personally or professionally is my choice. But I love that.
God, we are so like, weird, I feel like I'm having so many like moments in this conversation.
That's why I started recording these conversations. I realized I want to give this back. I want to give this to my daughter as she's getting into her money era sooner than ever before. So says her. She says at 14 she'll be working, she'll be self-sufficient, and she may even emancipate. Who knows? But we're going to stay friends. That's what she told me. And I think about this a lot. It's like, well, what am I really leaving to her? Sure, she'll have money, she'll have access, but I want her to have like those conversations that she's not going to have for a while, those in-depth kind of access. Oh, I love that you used that word, access capital, right? Because I think a lot of people don't get this, and they get the highlights reel, and they get the high, and they get the low, and there's nothing in between. And interestingly, while you're at a high, you're also starting something for the first time.
Yeah, super scary. But also some people just don't give a shit about the middle, they want to know the highlights and they want to know the lowlights, and then like, that's it. They don't actually like the process. And I actually, this has been just an amazing conversation, because I do think that they always say it's the journey, right? But I didn't really realize that for me, and the education piece, and the growth piece. Like, I always have to be evolving, or I'm so fucking bored.
That's 100% that. And I think that is something I wish, in my mind, so when I started generational growth, my concept was about ownership. It's like, well, if more people were owners and, more owners than consumers, then they would think differently. And then it shifted to, well, maybe if it's not necessarily ownership, you don't have to own something to understand that, but maybe it's to be more proactive instead of reactive. And then I was like, well, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's just that they're thinking about themselves in a way that elevates beyond the material. And then I was like, fuck it, it's all of that.
Yes, and again.
Let's call it, generational growth, and let's talk about those things. I call it mind, body, business, and self-care. Like, they're all intertwined. And I think some contrarian thoughts is what I would love to end with, which is like getting your thoughts on this materialism culture that we're in. Like, to your point, everyone is doing everything for someone else. I very rarely meet people who are quietly building the life that they have and not wanting to put it out there on display. What do you think this is going to look like in the next 10 years, 5 years?
Oof. That's a really, really hard question. I mean, I've had my own real evolution with that, because of the decision to eventually move to Mexico. I was like, I'm not taking my Bottega or my Balenciaga or what the fuck do I need that for?
Correct.
So that's been a really wild journey for me, because I am very much a materialist. I love things and beautiful things, but that can look different.
Yeah.
Right? What that will look like, I don't know. Running the agency now for almost 17 years, that evolution is coming so quickly. Even in this year, we've seen such dramatic shifts and changes in how influencer marketing happens and marketing in general. Yeah. So that will shape and shift how people engage with brands. And I think that there's a trickle-down effect in terms of consumerism. I think back to your earlier conversation around being a slave to the material, right, world. And I think once you can relinquish that, I think that you can be a happier human. And if my husband heard me say that, he would be like, what? I'm so glad you have that recorded.
What? My wife? Yes, I'll be sure to send him a private recording of this.
Yeah. But I think, we get pitched really interesting companies that are so unique and different. And just got pitched a company just a few days ago, actually, around the data gold mine, right? This is a conversation we've been having for a while, but it's becoming even more important that we understand what we're doing with our data, especially in an AI era, right? And what this particular company is doing is actually giving you, I'm going to totally fuck up the way that they described it, because I just saw the deck once, but she was so brilliant. I was like, I don't think I'm smart enough to have this conversation with you. I think I need to go educate myself some more.
Of course.
After this conversation. But she basically said that the future will be about decentralized control over your own data and the power of data, right? Data is the new gold mine.
I could not agree more. I've actually gone down that rabbit hole, not by choice. My husband was that guy about 7 years ago. And what I kept running into, that's why I called it a techno-slavery, is this idea of like your entire DNA is data that's being mined right now.
Literally everything.
Everything. Yeah. And I think for some people, Laurel, I think that their lives are so miserable they're okay with it. There's my contrarian view, is that they're just like, what is this life anyway? They're scrolling. I get on a plane, the first thing I do is I watch human behavior. I'm a behaviorist by background, and I'm watching what people are doing. And if the amount of people that are scrolling and double tapping of all ages, just sucking up, consuming again, right? Instead of creating, instead of innovating, instead of owning, it's mind-numbing, truly.
God, yeah.
And then I think about what I know it does to the brain, and I'm like, well, this is interesting. So we're going to be completely disarmed at this idea of every aspect of us is probably owned, is probably given away. And, think about copyright and IP and how this is all getting kind of messy right now.
Oh, yeah, not even talked about legal ramifications of all of this, for sure.
And I don't know, 5-10 years from now, I wonder if most people care as much as I feel I do, because I know I'm unique. And I'm a person, and I'm okay with that. It's like something we bonded over where I tell my daughter, like, you're not going to fit in with everyone else. I'm not going to do what all the other parents do. And you need to be okay with that because it's not changing because I'm okay with that.
Yeah, this is the way it is.
This is who I am. Yeah. This is the way it is. Yeah. But I wonder if more people are going to stand up and say, well, actually, I'm unique. I have within my body intellectual property. My data is mine. You don't get access to it. I don't see it either, girl.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the society and the continued expansion of humanity, which is less and less human, I think people are getting, I'm such a jerk to say this.
No, this is the point. Say it.
I think people are just happy being mind numbed. Yes. I think that's their new heroin, and I think that they don't give a shit. Yeah. And people are getting dumber every day. Yeah. And it's weird because technology is can be such a powerful thing in our lives, but it's also the thing I think that is destroying humanity. Yes. The humanness and the connection between people. So yeah, I think it's a scary place that we're going. I hope that there will be people like this woman who we may invest in who will help solve for some of that. But it is a very terrifying world. As you know, my sister just had a baby, and I'm like, I don't know if I would bring a child into this world. This scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're on contrarian thoughts. Let's say it. I have had this thought many times as an adoptive mom to older kids. I would have never had children, especially now. Yeah. When I see what my kids are going through, I'm floored at what the acceptance level is of most of those things. Yeah. And I am constantly running into friction on my, what would they call that? Hands-on approach to their
helicopter
livelihood.
Parent.
Yes.
Tiger mom.
Oh, that was my dream. I always wanted to be a Caribbean tiger mom. Turns out it's a thing. And boy, my daughter would tell you.
Tiger mom with better tan?
Well, essentially, Tiger mom's supposed to be the Asian mom. Caribbean mom is like, if you look that up, there are some very interesting parodies around the Caribbean mom. Caribbean mom's, I think, a little bit tougher and a little less elevating. And Tiger mom is still like, no, you are better. This is how you're going to be better. But boy, I'm like that hybrid.
Got it. Okay. Interesting.
Like the mom who wants you to hold your standards, but will also keep you in line if you don't.
Yeah.
Caribbean tiger mom.
I just want to get back to a place where people are human again. And even in this era, like the last couple times I drove my car and I was trying to find a parking spot, people are so angry right now. They're just so there's a lack of connectivity between human to human. And that makes me really sad. So again, I don't know where this is going to go in 5 or 10 years, but those are the things that keep me up at night. From my niece, who I'm already obsessed with. But yeah, the world is a sad and scary place, and also a very exciting potential future if we have control and can shape it in a way that we believe is better, which means women having more control.
That's right.
Women investing, women having more control over money and power and status. Yes. Because the big swinging dicks that have been doing it ain't doing it right and haven't been for a long time.
That's right.
That's I think we can fix it. I think we are the solution.
Yes. I had this in my mind as you said this, is we have to be the change we wish to see.
Totally.
I could wax and wane and be very philosophical about what the world should be. But if I don't go home and do the things I'm supposed to do, if I don't go to the office and do things I'm supposed to do, then I'm contributing to the problem.
Totally.
The only thing I can think of is that this human being, this body, I can handle. Yep. I can do something about. And if each of us took just a couple percentage points of interest in what are we doing that no one knows about, what are we contributing to, whether it's with our capital, our skill, our attention, all those things, I think we would be in a different place in just a few years. It is that simple, to your point.
I agree. But I also think people like to be very performative about that.
Yeah.
And they like to complain or post on social media
Correct.
about the things that are happening. And like, what are you actually doing to make change?
Yeah.
So that's the other side of it is
the
like,
tricky part.
yeah, it's super tricky.
Now there's a whole living to be made about, saying I'm against these things. A couple years ago, that was so odd. I think when I took a multi-year social media vacation. And originally I did it, let me think, why did I do it? I felt that pressure to be performative. I had a background on TV. And I thought, if I don't stop now, I'll never go deeper into who I really am. Fun fact. 3 months later, I met my kids. I took that energy and time and I made more money for my investment fund, made more money for my clients, had a better relationship with my husband, and then started with all this free time I had investing my own time and skill into being a CASA volunteer, which is how I met the kids.
Amazing.
It was a beautiful thing. I didn't think I'd be off for this long. And now every time I think about going back, I get sick. And I've kind of allowed myself to sit with the idea that I may never go back the way most people are. Because to your point, there's a lot of performativeness even around women and wealth right now, around investing.
Oh my God, we could talk about that.
Come on.
I was at a conference last week before, God, all the weeks are blending together. And I came away with it with two really contrarian thoughts. One is that this is all nice and well and good for us to be in these rooms and to be rah, whatever. But these are not the rooms I need to be in. These are the rooms where you're reflecting back at the same kind of person that you are. And like everyone is in agreement there. What the fuck kind of change am I making in that room?
Echo chamber shit.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that was one. And then the other conference I was at, I sit on the board of this organization, so I'm not going to name it. But I asked everyone on the board, I said, just out of curiosity, as you all know, we're closing our fund. How many of you are invested in venture? And everyone raised their hand. And I said, and how many of those funds are run by women? And I think 1 of 12 had their hand up. I was like, this is bullshit.
That is so interesting. So people say one thing and they do a complete other.
Literally there to support that community, and yet the actions don't speak to that.
That's what I've seen as well. It's like a misalignment of what really matters. I always think if you are who you are, then who you are in the darkness and the light is the same, right?
Should 100% be.
Yeah. What you do
It's
with your
not
capital
for
and your
most
skill
people.
and what you do with all of your extra time, there's alignment there almost always. And it's not for most people. I almost think it brings right back to this idea of the slavery, this idea of like, if I'm not performative, then who am I really? Like if I'm just doing everything for a camera and I'm doing everything for a paycheck and I'm doing everything for notoriety, am I even who I really am? You're certainly not living your fullest potential, but are you really who you were supposed to be when your DNA was formed? Most people are a no, and I don't think they care, to your point.
Yeah, I think that there's a complacency there.
Yeah.
I also think that there's a keeping up with the Joneses, which is the materialistic conversation. And when I dug in on that question, when I was like, well, why aren't you walking that talk? Well, I didn't, there wasn't enough access to those people, or like I didn't know anyone, or like whatever. I'm like, do the fucking work then, dude. Like what?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's still a huge evolution that needs to happen. And I think that it's also people are afraid to fail. And that's never been something that I've been scared of doing.
That's fair. Samesies.
So they're like, God forbid I put my money in something and it fails. Like, yeah, it could fail.
Yeah.
Especially if you're investing in something that is high risk, high reward like venture or an individual company. But for me, and I know for you, the value set that carries with it is equally as important as the dollars attached to it for me.
Of course. And there's so much to learn on the way up and the way down. And I think when you're afraid to fail, or when you're performative, and so therefore what people see is not really who you are or what you get, there's something to like the way you approach everything in life. This is probably, I wasn't expecting this question to come up, but it's probably a great one from you, the future of venture capital, in my opinion. Do you think that there will be venture alternatives that are the right fit for the future? Is venture capital as it is today, and you're breaking all the fucking balls there, okay? Is there another way that should be considered or is being considered? I'm pretty ignorant still to that you can foresee in the not too distant future? Or is it just going to be these fucking stuffy suits just trying to push the same narrative about how to grow a business, how to launch a business, how to fund a business over and over again?
It's a really good question. I don't really know the answer, if I'm being honest.
I bet.
And that's also okay, right?
That is like the best answer.
Most women are afraid to answer in that way, right? Like, I don't know. But you know what? I'm figuring it out right now.
Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of really interesting things happening in the secondaries world. Yeah. And I think that evolution is going to be interesting. But in terms of like power and ownership in the top of the food chain, being pale, male, and stale, I think that we need to prove the model, and we are proving the model, right? I always lead with the numbers.
Yep.
And if you lead with the numbers, then they speak for themselves. Now, saying that, the numbers haven't lied for a long time. We all know the 2% number in terms of lack of venture capital that goes to diverse founders. But what we don't talk about is the other side of that coin, which is that when diverse founders do receive capital, they return on average at a 25% higher return rate, which is an amazing statistic. But also this has almost always been the case too. Wow. And so the fact that things have not changed because the pale, male, and stale of the world have had control over this wealth, it leads me to feel that things are not going to be shifting unless and until women, and women of color in particular, have this wealth transfer that happens and use their money in different ways. And women holistically, and queer folks, and everyone who's in the diversity buckets, say no. Like, we have the way more control, and yet we just allow that complacency with our wealth and our buying power. Like, leave investing out of it, because not everyone, certainly not all women, and certainly not all anyone, not everyone has the ability to make the kinds of investments that you and I do. What can you do with what you do have?
Yes.
Those are the important conversations that we need to be having. And again, I think it becomes super performative. Everyone was up in arms over Target, and then everyone went back to shopping at fucking Target.
Of course they did, and Target knew it.
Absolutely. Yep. So you hurt their bottom line for like a quarter, maybe, and then their shares go right back up.
Give them a great run up, and that's really the thing that I see. So I think what I'm hearing from you is there are a number of different ways we can support this movement, so to speak. So I really think of it as more of just a movement than anything else. We can invest, of course. We can find access to capital. We can, really put a check out there. We can support. We can share. We can demystify, and that's something that I'm really excited about doing more and more. I never thought I'd be doing this, but I'm always been the woman talking about money, and I'm like, well, I might as well really go in on talking about money and just share my story, right? Yeah. And just be honest about that. The number one question I get asked is, "Where'd you get all the money?" And I'm like, it's not sexy. I worked for it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It's not this magical formula.
Nothing
Worked
fun.
Fucking hard.
Yeah, I worked really fucking hard. I lived drastically under my means. I still do.
Yeah, we talk
somehow
about that all the time.
That always creates more capital, more opportunity. And that's a cool place to be. The other thing I just heard from you, which is interesting, because I've thought about my first $1,000. Like when I had $1,000 in the bank, I'm telling you, Laurel, there was like a moment, granted I was 17, but I was like, there is no end in sight for me for my success. So maybe today, some woman needs to hear, let me just get my assets together in some way.
Yeah.
It could be just getting to that first $1,000 saved. The number of people who don't even have for an emergency, 40 to 50% of, I think, most of our country doesn't have enough.
The debt side of that conversation.
100%.
Right? Yeah.
So maybe your action point, if you're listening today, is to just get yourself to a place where you're more stable to buy from who you want to buy from and invest and have control over who you are, right? That could just be a self-investment to start. And then as things progress, there's always bigger opportunities.
I also think, to your point, it's the psychological imperative. Mm-hmm. So instead of buying the thing on Instagram because it got you in that moment and you got that dopamine hit, say no. Like, make decisions that are better for your long term, even though it's not the sexy move.
Yeah. If you love your brain, which is the organ that all of this goes through, you have to realize that you're hurting it, and then you have to love it enough to stop. And that means stop scrolling, probably stop buying, and start really thinking about who you are and what you want to contribute in this world. Because I don't know anyone is dying with their Birkin. Somebody probably has gotten buried with their Birkin, but truly, when I think about leaving a legacy and what generational growth really is supposed to be, it's exactly what you just said.
Yeah,
and it's so much more.
It's so much more. And it is so much more sexy for me now to invest in a women-run company than it is to buy that new pair of shoes.
I bet.
I look in my closet, and every now and then I'm like, ooh, I need something new, because we just do. I find it far sexier to invest those dollars, even if it's $1,000, even if it's $5,000, whatever those small numbers are. I think that's the other big misnomer that I think people need to take away from the conversation is you don't need to have a lot to make investments. we as a venture fund might not be your first fit, and that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But get out there, educate. I mean, you do so much around that conversation as well. You did it. So you're here to share and be the living example of what's possible.
Truly, I remember when it was under $1,000 in my bank account. And granted, I was quite young and I had a very early start to my career. But I also think about those first couple investments, my smallest investment, no one ever asked me about $30,000. That's a lot more accessible than $300,000, a lot more accessible than $3 million. And yet I've done all of those. And I can tell you the $30,000 one, I learned a lot. And it gave me some, I think, ability to move to the next stage. Even if that next stage wasn't financial, it was skill.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I could use this skill in many ways that I never thought of.
For sure. And there's so many opportunities to have those micro learnings, micro investing. That I think has actually been the evolution of investing that I've seen in the last, 5 to 10 years. I just here to do my part and glad to have these conversations with you where you've had me have these aha moments. Like usually I'm the one on the other side of the mic being like, what do you think? And I just see this reflection of who you've been and who you are and how that has come together to make this amazing human. And I just am so grateful that I've had these moments with you. Thank you.
I'm so grateful. I think of you as a friend, as a mentor, and as one badass bitch. So get ready, world. I think they're going to see a lot more of this lady.
I love it.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. On to cocktails.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us. Now go out there and turn your success into action. Generational Growth is about helping you in every area that matters: mind, body, business, and self-care. Share this episode on social media and LinkedIn, and feel free to send us where you feel strong and where you need support.
Please note, this content is for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial or professional advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions. Some of the products and services mentioned may involve financial compensation or partnerships.